Hello and welcome back into my studio. Today we're working on the letter I. Now was a little challenging for me. I was trying to think of ideas for the letter I that had to do with texture, and I really only thought of two. Implied texture, where it's not actually texture if you were to rub your hand over the surface, but it looked like there was texture on there. So implied texture. The other is impasto, which is a technique used in painting where you lay the paint on the surface very thick. Thick enough that when it's dried you can see the brush strokes or the palette knife marks in the paint. You can do that by using a heavy body paint. Both of these brands are heavy body. Or you can use some type of medium, and most brands have a medium out there that will give you that kind of thickness, that kind of texture. And Studio 71 has a one called Texture Paste, and this you can either mix your heavy body paint into it, or you can use it separately and then paint over the top. I have only used this by mixing it in with a paint. Now this is translucent, so you can't, when it does dry clear. So I don't really want that translucency, so what I'm gonna do is use this directly and then paint over it. So that's where I'm starting out. I am going to be using a stencil right off. Now my surface has already been pre-gessoed with my Studio 71 white gesso. So that's already down. And then now I'm going to use this stencil called Loopy Ladders. This is a fun stencil. So that's where I'm going to get started. So here I am adding texture paste through this stencil for actual texture, and this is gonna set off my implied texture, and I'll talk about that when we get to and we're gonna actually create that. Okay, so you may have noticed that I have applied texture to this die cut letter I. I am simply using it as a marker, as a mask, because I'm going to have no color where the letter I is going to be on my page, and I'm just using it to mark my place, to mask out any color from getting under. And I don't usually add tape to when I'm using a stencil, but I am this time because I need it to line up. and I need my hands free to add this glossy spray. And now I'm adding my implied texture. So there is actual texture on this page. You can feel it with your fingers that we created with the texture paste. And now visually, it looks like that texture continues on because we used a very textural stencil, but we can also see the visual texture created with the texture paste. And then coupled with that blank space for the letter I, where there is actual texture underneath, just does that much more for the eye visually on this page. So now I'm going to be adding this heavy body paint using the Impasto technique. So this is where you use a heavy bodied paint and it is laid down in an area of the surface very thickly, and I'm accentuating that by using this palette knife to create very distinct impressions into the paint. Again, using the die cut letter I as a mask to accentuate the texture on this page. So again, using either a brush or a palette knife, showing visual strokes within the thickness of that paint is the technique called impasto. Again, I apologize. It appears I have misplaced or lost the footage of the creation of the insert for the pocket. And the tape that I had used for the stencil that had gotten all that nice glossy spray on it, I'm going to be reusing after I finally get my mini stapler to work here. I love the way that the glossy sprays look on tape. It's a really nice texture, implied texture. Thank you for coming along and working through the alphabet of textures one letter at a time with me. Please go ahead and hit the subscribe and the like button. Thank you. Bye.